Hello, today I'd like to talk about growing Colocasias in the UK. Personally myself, I've grown about 50 varieties of Colocasia over the last 10-11 years. They are my favourite group of plants, especially for a tropical border. And personally I think anyone that grows tropicals in this country, especially if you're growing cannas, bananas, these are a must to be in that border. They come in so many different shapes and sizes that they give a look that most other plants don't. Now the problem is that not many of them are reliably hardy for this country. We have cold wet winters which they really do not like, and that is one of the sort of biggest problems that most people will have in this country in dealing with them. So first of all, probably the hardest colocasia that we grow in this country, and is probably the best known, is pink china. Pink china will be reliably hardy for most people in this country, providing you may have to give it a mulch. If your soil's really wet, you may struggle a little bit. If you're in Scotland, probably struggle. I couldn't comment on that, to be fair. Location may be key, but generally if you're talking about a colocasia that you want to leave out in this country, pink china is reliably the best one that you are going to get. After that, this hard to pronounce colocasia, which is Colocasia gaoligonensis, if I pronounce that right. This is also quite a hardy colocasia. It's not as good a doer as pink china. Pink china will grow in a good summer with plenty of water, big leaves, and multiply really well, and is, in my opinion anyway, a more attractive plant, whereas gaoligonensis doesn't produce with the same vigour that pink china does. It does get darker patches as it matures and in the sunlight, which gives it a bit of a different look, but generally this is quite a hardy colocasia for our country as well. After that is the lesser known Formosana, which is also meant to be quite hardy. I haven't actually kept it out for me in my garden over winter, but it has reliably been kept in Wales and places like that that I know of over the years and come back every year. It's not as attractive as pink china or gaoligonensis. It's got smaller green rounded leaves, produces lots of runners, so maybe isn't desirable as the other two. And the other thing is, it's harder to get hold of. There's not so many nurseries that would sell the Formosana as pink china and gaoligonensis. Then after them three, you get some more cooler variety colocasias that may stay out over winter, but if they do come back, it's sometimes a bit of luck that you've had a mild winter or the right location. So for me, I rave on it about quite a lot. It's Colocasia mammoth. Now this example here isn't exactly a mammoth, as you can see, but I do have a lot bigger examples, but due to the windy day today, they're being kept out of the way and they've had to go into the greenhouse because they're in pots and they keep getting blown over. I used to grow loads of Colocasias in the ground, but now, due to all the heavy planting, I can't really grow them because there's just too many roots, not enough nutrients, not enough water. They just don't do well. So for me, they're much better to grow in pots where I can leave them in trays of water during the summer. Now, just to add to that, Colocasias love water, but only when warm. So come winter time, you're going to have to reduce that water. So yes, they can sit in trays of water, you can water them really well, but as temperatures drop, you're going to have to reduce that amount of water. So for me, mammoth, I've had to survive outside in my garden. But it is better to bring it inside, most definitely. Just dig it up, store it dry, and it will come back most years. I can get leaves on this up to 1 metre big most years if fed well and watered well. So other colocasias that take quite cool tolerant sort of conditions, which means you can probably keep them in a really lowly heated greenhouse, maybe 3-4 degrees Celsius, and they'll sort of come back every year. So there's Colocasia bikini. That to me is a bit like burgundy stem or metallica, but it has upturned leaves like the Colocasia coffee cups. That for me comes back pretty much every year. Even if I just leave it in the greenhouse dormant, it will come back reliably, maybe from the runners or the corm, nearly every year. And you've also got Colocasia dark stem hybrid. That's only a small example, but this Colocasia will get really quite big, and it just comes back every year for me in a pot in the greenhouse. It's one of the easiest ones to look after. The wind is just battering them right now, so they don't look too good with that. This one here is Colocasia green ruffles. This as well, really cool tolerant, comes back easy. Not the most attractive Colocasia compared to some of the better ones like that, which is Colocasia Black Beauty, but is a real easier one to look after in my opinion. Again, just leave it to slowly dry out, go a bit dormant, and it comes back, clumps up really well for me nearly every year. So another one that's quite cool tolerant is, if I stand up here and get one of the face of the leaf, is Colocasia coal miner. This also is a very cool tolerant Colocasia. It sits there quite happily in temperatures sort of about 5-6 degrees without dying down or rotting. As long as it warms up a bit, it will come back. You also have Colocasia fontanesi. That is also a very cool tolerant Colocasia, which I haven't actually got in this collection, but I have got. That does really well in cool temperatures as well. So these cooler temperature Colocasias are easier to get through winter, which makes them probably not the most attractive of Colocasias that you can grow, but a lot easier to sort of keep that plant and get it through winter. And then you slowly go on to some slightly trickier ones, and it tends to be that the more trickier ones are more attractive or more colourful. This one here is one of my favourites, Colocasia lemon and lime gecko. It has beautiful sort of reddy white stems, and usually I would let this tick over in the greenhouse, maybe at about sort of 10 degrees, but last year I just left it in a pot, let it die back, and thought I'll see how it goes, and it actually came back really, really well. I've probably, from that one little clump, now got about 20 plants in there that are all actively growing. It does well outside during the summer months, but does need to go back in for winter. Then you've got some trickier ones. These are just small examples. This is Aloha, which is a very small example here, and this one is Colocasia Black Ripple. Now the Hawaiian Colocasias, which is what these are beautiful Colocasias when they mature. They really are nice, but they are trickier to get through winter. You have to personally try a few different ways. I have got certain ones through dormant with good success. Other ones I need to leave ticking over. So when I say ticking over, I mean I'm going to probably keep them above 12 degrees so they don't go dormant. Lower the water levels so they just about carry on growing. I don't want them to go dormant, but I do want them to sort of stay alive, and then come spring we can slowly increase the water as growth levels improve, and then sort of get them actively growing. So they are a trickier Colocasia. They are one of the better looking ones. If you've got, especially in this summer, we've just had a really hot summer and you've been watering well, you will have some really good examples of probably Colocasia black coral and plants like that that have done really well for you this year. But they still come with that trickiness of overwintering, and it's really hard to give the exact way to overwinter Colocasias because everyone's going to be a little bit different. Some might be able to keep them in a heated greenhouse, some might be able to keep them on a heat mat, some on a sunny windowsill, some with higher humidity, lower humidity. You've got to experiment a little bit to see what works best for you. But probably if you're starting out with Colocasias in the UK, I would maybe go for some of the easier ones like them three over there. Maybe not so much Formosana, but maybe Mammoth, maybe dark stem hybrid and plants like that. which you'll get through a lot easier than the trickier ones to start with. Now at the back there, this is newly acquired to me. This is Colocasia Pharaoh's Mask. I've avoided buying this over the last couple of years because it's been really expensive. It was probably going for about £150, going up to £250, but I got this one probably about 2 weeks ago for about £40. Now Pharaoh's Mask is really nice Colocasia. These burgundy looking veins will sort of start to protrude and come out, and the leaf will sit back, giving it its Pharaoh Mask sort of look. Now the problem with Pharaoh's Mask is this is meant to be the diva of all divas. So most people that have grown this, and experienced growers in the UK, have really struggled. They've tried grow lights and all sorts of stuff to keep it alive. I do know an example of a couple of people that have grown it and got it through, but only just. So for me, this is going to be a bit of an experiment this year. It's probably going to sit at about 15 degrees under a grow light, maybe even if I have to with a humidifier. We'll see. It's going to be a bit of trial and error this year to see if I can get it through. Now the potting mix it came in is just compost. Now I'm going to have to change that, but I've avoided changing it at the minute because it's sort of actively growing, it's looking really good and it's really happy. So I will change that mix, because if I don't add a mix of probably compost and a good ratio of perlite, it's really going to struggle, because I won't be able to control the water levels. It will just sit really wet, and if it's not getting enough light and it's just not happy, then it's going to die on me like anything. So it's going to be an experiment, but one that I'm really going to enjoy doing. Now the worst of the worst with the Colocasias, and anyone that grows these will know, especially in dry warm conditions, is red spider mite. Now over here I have a plant that I've kept us away from the others that's not looking very happy, because it's just come out of the greenhouse into the really windy conditions, which make it drop like anything. Now this one is being kept away from the others because it's got, in our dry summer, a real bad case of red spider mite. So red spider mite, you will know, really does look terrible on a Colocasia, and it really does slowly destroy it. They multiply like crazy, and they just absolutely suck the sap out of the back of the leaves and the front of the leaves, and multiply at such a ratio that they're hard to deal with. Now there's lots of treatments for red spider mite, which is quite hard on a big Colocasia or a large collection. You can use neem oils, you can use horticultural soap and all stuff like that. This one, I'm going to cut all the leaves off, and I'm going to wash it thoroughly and keep it aside from the other, and see if I can try to get rid of it. But to be honest, it is the bane of my life. Now one of the easiest ways to tell that you've got red spider mite, even when this webbing just starts, this white speckled look on it, is to spray it with water, because Colocasias generally repel water. So when you get a Colocasia with red spider mite, excuse the leaf burn on the side of this ran out of water while it was on a really hot day. But generally when you spray with water, the water will just bounce off a lot of matte leafed Colocasias. But when you have red spider mite, you can see, and this is a real hard to get a shot here, the water will cling to the leaves like that, and it's a real good sign that you've got spider mites on your Colocasia. They absolutely love Colocasia because they repel the water. It means the surface of the leaf stays very, very dry, and that is the condition that they love. They can multiply at such a high ratio when it's hot and dry that the plant just cannot deal with them. So growing indoors is not very good for Colocasias, and in general is probably one of the worst pests that affect Colocasias. So hopefully you've learnt a little bit from my brief sort of demonstration of the Colocasias and some of the ones I grow, in the UK. It is so much different to growing in the US, where they have probably drier winters and a lot hotter summers, and a lot of these plants are a lot hardier in the US compared to what they are in this country. But thanks for watching, and I hope you learnt a little something. Cheers.